I'm for Klaassen and I'm a rally raid driver. Got into motorsport when I was 6. My dad always exposed me and my brother to lots of different sports, and yeah, we were really into motocross and go-karts, so I did that for about 6 years of my life. And that's kind of where the passion and the love started. And yeah, throughout the years kind of chopped and changed within the sports, and then got into car racing about a year ago. I have 2 other sisters, and from age 6 to 12 I was always doing the go-karts and the motorbikes with my brother. And I don't know, I think when you're a girl at that age I loved it, but I was a bit jealous of my sisters doing the horse riding, so I decided no, I want to move to that. And then yeah, I fell in love with that completely. It was completely different to the engine side of the bikes and the go-karts, but yeah, I pursued show jumping and jumped to the 140s. So yeah, me and my younger sister did it, and she's still busy doing that. Of course, I'm really lucky that I was able to be exposed to all these different sports, and I think that's given me a pretty good understanding for all these different sports. It's a really good base as a kid to grow up doing such a large variety. I think even though racing very short, I still have a basic understanding for lines and terrain through motocross and through go-karting and even through horse riding. I mean, it's all like understanding, and I think that's given me a good ability to adapt. Of course, my family is really understanding. Even though none of them have really done the car racing, they can have a good understanding of what it entails and what I kind of go through without going through it themselves. So that was a very spontaneous thing because I was injured from a motocross, or had a motocross injury. So I was a bit lost of what to do, and we were in Switzerland, and my dad's family friend was telling us about his 9/11 and his Dakar experience, and we were like so amazed by the story. And yeah, he happened to be selling the car, so my dad was like, he asked me, do you want to do this? And it was such a spontaneous, out of the blue thing, and we didn't really think about it. We were just like, okay, let's do it. And then of course he wanted me to drive and him to co-drive, and then yeah, we had 3 months to prepare, and we just went in and did it. You don't need any way to qualify for it, and basically it's all the classic cars from the 80s and 90s. So yeah, it doesn't have to be the original car, but it's basically like just cars that raced in the Dakar then. And the route is a bit more mellow, and yeah, it's based on ideal time as well, which is really like cool. It's like the old school way of rallying. And yeah, it's just people who love cars and have a passion for especially classic cars that want to do the Dakar. It was incredible. I mean, it was my first rally ever. I'd never done any car race before that, so I learned a lot for sure. And my dad's also done a bit of rallying, so he kind of guided me through it. But it was an incredible experience. I mean, the car was so cool, and to do it with my dad was really special. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I had no expectations, so yeah, just wanted to finish, and yeah, it was a really, really cool experience. I obviously finished Dakar Classic and then kind of was like, what do we do now? And I knew I wanted to do more, so it was Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge. I had an opportunity to rent one of the cars and do that, but again, I saw the names on the entry list and I was like, still no experience in that sort of racing. And then, yeah, I did that, and I knew from that race I want to do the proper Dakar, because I wasn't sure if I was going to do another classic or how things would work. But yeah, after that race I was locked in, and I really just wanted to do the real Dakar, and then yeah, also very quickly progress. From Classic, which is, the car's really old, the terrain is a lot more mellow, and the cars, obviously, the speeds between the cars have a huge difference. So I think the biggest difference is also like the style of racing. So Classic is idle time, old cars, more for enjoyment, and very calculated. Everything's to the second, and that wasn't really my style. The Challenger category now is pure racing, so it's on speed, everything's quick and fast, so I kind of enjoyed that side, it's proper racing. And the cars are obviously extremely capable, so the terrain is a lot more hectic, but the cars are built to be able to handle that. And yeah, it's still in a way very, very different. We don't follow any tracks, so especially Dakar, it's all open desert. There's not one road that's been paved. So I'm driving and my co-driver has a road book and he sees exactly kind of where to go. And we follow a cap heading, which is, direction. So together the, co-driver kind of guides you where to go, but it's so easy to get lost because the roads aren't so simple. It's a bit tricky and you have to hit waypoints as well. So if you miss waypoints, it's big penalties, and yeah, you really have to trust your co-driver because you're kind of going in blind into a stage. And for sure there's tracks to follow from the cars in front, but navigation can still be tricky. So to have that trust between the driver and co-driver is really, really important. I've obviously known Charan from last year. I met him in Namibia and I knew of him through, he's a Malimoto and raced a couple Dakars, and he was preparing for racing the bikes at Dakar and me and my dad were preparing for Classic. So we knew of each other, but then last year he had a bit of trouble getting back into the bikes and he wasn't sure if that's kind of what he wanted to do. So when the opportunity came for him, I asked him would you want to sit in a car with me? And he thought about it and he liked the idea of it. So kind of from there, we went from being friends and then built that relationship in the car, and now he's really in it. And it's a big surprise for him because, everyone thinks the cars isn't that hectic, but he's found it pretty challenging, which he likes. He likes that challenge. So that's been really cool to also be with someone that you already know before. So we had a lot of mechanicals in the first week, but it was all drivable. I had to just slow down my pace, and that's what the Dakar was for us, was pure just surviving and getting through. It was kind of hard to show your pace because the terrain is really rough, and to push in those conditions, obviously risks are higher. So I really just wanted to drive at a comfortable pace where I knew there were very minimal risks, but of course that's kind of inevitable. We still had mechanicals. We had to change a diff on the marathon stage, so we didn't have any support. So that was tricky, but Charan, he's really, really good at that. So he was up till 3:30 working on the car, and the next day you kind of go into the stage hoping that everything's okay. So it was for sure a lot of challenges thrown our way. We thought that the first week was going to be the most difficult, and we were very wrong because the second week was for sure our most difficult. That's a special stage because we had engine failure at kilometer 37. So, even through all the mechanicals and making it every stage, you don't think something like engine failure would happen. Of course, it's motorsport, so anything can happen. But the fact that that happened was pretty unlucky. So the first thing that went through my head was, we still have 450 kilometers to go of the stage. But if we pull out, we're not a finisher. And I was lying 7th at this point, so I would have loved to, try get a top 5 or something, but obviously that was out the window. So we had a T5 support truck that basically can help you fix your car if something goes wrong. But we even asked them can you tow us to the end of the stage? And they were like, it's possible, you can do it, but it will be long and it will be hectic, which it was. I was excited to do it because I was like, this is such a cool Dakar experience. But it was rough. So we sat behind that T5 truck for 9 hours, and I knew obviously there would be dust from the truck, but it was really, really bad. At one point Chan was even like, can we die of dust inhalation? Because we weren't sure, because it was just constant dust. At the end, you get to the end of the stage and you're like, is it worth it? But it was a really cool thing, and of course it's a pity what happened, but I think that just makes the whole experience really cool. So unfortunately, when you get we had an engine failure, so obviously we wanted to continue. We have a spare engine, but to do an engine swap, you get a 25-hour penalty. So we obviously dropped to 9th place, and then with the 25-hour penalty, dropped to I think 19th. So that's unfortunate because I think it's a new-ish rule that you used to be able to have one joker where you can swap an engine once and not get penalized for it. But unfortunately this year the rules are different and we got that penalty, which is obviously a huge penalty. But rather get the penalty and still be a finisher, So I like that you never know what to expect. You can never predict how a stage will be. So you kind of start a stage not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing what they're going to throw at you. You get a little brief of, maybe it's 70% rocks and 30% sand, or that's about it. You don't know how rocky the rocks are and how sandy the sand is. So I like that unpredictable and unexpected feeling, so it's really exciting. For sure, it's really dangerous what I do now, but at the same time I don't really get scared, and that's why I love the sport so much, because the first race I did, everyone asks you like, do you get scared? And I don't know if there's something wrong with me, but I had like no fear. So yeah, it's dangerous. I've had crashes and I've had rolls, but you're pretty safe in the car. The roll cage and the harness really straps you in. So I think going back to motocross and even downhill, that's dangerous because you have no security around you. So you can hit a tree, you can hit other drivers, and I think the consequences are much worse. But in a car you feel so nice and safe, and I think that's kind of because I'm so used to all the other dangerous sports I've done. That's why I think I have that fearless aspect in the car, because I feel so safe. So maybe not a good thing, but I think it's for sure dangerous, but somehow safe in a way. Hopefully, I want to build up in T3 for a few years, and then going to T1 Plus would be a dream. My goal is kind of like a long 5 to 10 year goal, because I also look at the age of all the competitors, and no one's really too young, so it gives me kind of a good goal to work towards. I can still be 30 and be considered young in the sport, so I would love to make it to T1 Plus and race that and try to get some podiums and see what happens, because I love the sport so much, but obviously it isn't an easy sport to stick around if you don't have the right funding. I'm really lucky to be in the position I am, and my dad's been supporting me for this year, but that's also another thing. We came into the racing scene very quickly, and I thought getting sponsors would be easy, and it's been quite a struggle. So I think my dad can only support me for so long, and I'm very lucky to be in that position. But yeah, I've really been trying hard to look for sponsors. It's not easy, of course, because I really love the sport, and but it's obviously it's not a cheap sport, and things also happen all the time mechanically. So yeah, you have a certain budget, and things obviously go over that pretty quickly. So yeah, that's my goal for this year also, is to try look for some sponsors and partners and get a bit more support, because I love Dakar this year so much, so I'd really love to do it again next year. Yeah, so obviously Dakar is the biggest race of the World Championship, so that's round one, and it gets the most coverage and most exposure for sure. But now what's cool is not even 2 months after, basically a month after Dakar, we go into the second round, which is in Abu Dhabi. So that is pure just June racing, kind of like a mini Dakar. Like, it's a week and a lot less kilometers, still long kilometers, but very similar setup of racing. So it all kind of works the same, it's just not as long and as intense as Dakar. And then of course we have South Africa after that, so that's the first year the World Championship will come to South Africa, which I think, South Africa is a big motorsport country, but not a lot of people seem to know too much about the other rounds of the World Championship. It's only really Dakar's the focus. So I think the fact that the World Championship is coming to South Africa will give the country and the sport a lot of exposure, which I think will be really cool. And then we have Portugal and Morocco. So Morocco is also, they call that also a mini Dakar, because it's pretty similar terrain, and people use it as a test for Dakar. So there's 5 rounds, and they try to do it in every different continent in the world. They're all really cool races, all very different. So always something to look forward to. I think the female numbers are growing. If you look at even a few years ago, there was very few women that did, especially the Dakar. And this year there was quite a large number. It's still small, but yeah, I think being a female in this sport is really cool, because you don't really get treated, like, everyone is kind of equal. So man and woman, you're kind of all in the same category. Women race with the men, and I think you get the same respect as a man in the sport, because in most sports, even in Formula 1, you have a separate F1 academy for women, and as cool as it is for the exposure, I think it's still, women are getting their own separate class, and that's not really what I like to do. Like, I love racing with the men and getting that same respect, because you race with the men. So it's how things work. But yeah, I think it is one of the few sports in the world where the two can race together, and I think that's really cool, because I can see you don't get treated differently being a girl, and I like that. Like, we race and it's just a driver and another driver, and yeah, I think especially, I love being a woman in the sport, and for sure people say it's tough, but it's also tough for the men. So I think, yeah, in general, it's just a really tough sport.
And that's it for this week.